If you were God, would you forgive this person? Can you imagine being married to such a person? Meet Rufaro, a 32-year-old beautifully gorgeous Zimbabwean woman. She had accomplished everything academically that a woman, quite frankly, would want to. She was brilliant, good at school. She had just completed her PhD. To be honest, she quite frankly had basically everything you could dream of. Money, status, brains. The only thing was that she was considered obese. Now, technically, that wasn't necessarily her fault. She had always been a bigger woman, a bigger girl, and it kind of run in her family. Both her parents were on the thicker side, her brothers as well. So though she'd always been bigger, she still tried and attempted to meet that slim, thick type of vibe. It didn't work. She tried slim teas, she tried gymming, she tried, I don't know, a little bit of everything, even dieting. And unfortunately, it never really worked. The only thing that technically saved her was that her face card never declined. Unfortunately, a lot of people in her life couldn't look past her weight. And to be honest, she felt like that was quite frankly the reason why she'd never actually properly dated anyone. A lot of men thought she was beautiful, gorgeous, was intelligent, made a lot of money, but they couldn't get past her size. And so Rufaro threw herself into learning and work. By the time she was 33, Rufaro had been appointed director of marketing at one of the biggest banks in Harare. So technically, everything was kind of going according to plan. She was earning so much money that frankly, a quarter of her salary could take her through the month. Everything else was stockpiled, saved, and put into investments for later on down the line. Year after year, Rufaro continued growing, doing so much better for herself. Until one day, she met 28-year-old Zota, a South African man who took an instant liking to her. Of course, initially, Rufaro was very suspicious, very apprehensive because he was younger than her by all means. And he was definitely more fit. He went to the gym a lot. He had the spunk and appeal of a younger man. So what could he possibly be interested in her for? But you know what? Talking, meeting, interacting turned into dates. Dates eventually turned into relationship. And little by little, Rufaro was opening her heart up to Zota. Zota was a spunky, fresh guy who always made her feel loved, cared for, and he loved her just the way she was. Or so she thought. Eventually, a few years down the line, Rufaro and Zota got married. He had proposed at an intimate restaurant dinner ceremony, and they tied the knot. Quiet ceremony, just the two of them, loved ones, families, friends. And honestly, it was blissful. Zota seemed happy. Rufaro seemed happy. Their marriage was looking great. And for the first 2 years, nothing was going wrong. Rufaro was again making a lot of money. Zota was not as financially stable. He was technically struggling, but he loved Rufaro and took care of her in all ways that mattered. And to be honest, Rufaro had enough money for the two of them and more. Now, following 2 years of their marriage, things started to get a little rocky, slowly slipping down south. Now, Rufaro was not young. She was well into her 30s, and they'd been married for 2 years. So she came to Zota and said, hey, look, we're doing so well. Our marriage has been going great. Let's start planning for kids. Zota was not ready. He's like, look, I'm still young. I'm not ready. Our marriage is great. Let's continue to enjoy it and continue to, live blissful life. Rufaro agreed. She gave it an extra year. Again, she came to Zota and was like, hey, we've been doing so much. Like, time is running out. I really want us to have kids. What's your thought? Zota said he's still not ready. Rufaro's like, sir, I'm 37. Time is going. It's a wasting. We need to come to a solution now. And unfortunately for her, Zota was not hearing it. He wasn't interested. He was like, look, relax, we'll be fine. But Rufaro was really not feeling that relax, we'll be fine type of vibe. One Sunday, Zota had invited his boys over to come and watch a football match, and she, was catering to them. She'd cooked a meal, she was serving them snacks and things. As she was leaving them to enjoy their football match and heading to the kitchen, she heard them start to talk, boys talk. They started conversing. She stayed just at the door, close enough to hear, but hidden enough not to be seen. But what she heard made her regret standing there to begin with. Of course, the boys were chatting, and Zota and his friends were talking, and one of his friends asked him that, hey, why did you settle for Rufaro? She's not your type. We know your type. You like the slay queens, you like the Instagram baddies, slim girls, thick, those kind of vibe. That's who you are. Rufaro is not that. Zota laughed and chuckled and said, you know what? Hands up. It's true. She's not my type. And to be honest, I don't like her like that. I have a type, but guys, the money she makes, it's well worth the extra pills I have to take just to be intimate with her. Now, Rufaro was listening in at the door, and just that statement, I had to take pills just to be intimate with her, broke her. She started to cry softly, but that was not the end of the conversation. Zota in his boys' conversation continued, with them laughing and joking that, hey, what do you do exactly? How does it work? And Zota gave them all the details. He mentioned that even when they're intimate together, he ensures that he never finishes inside. He told them the details of him having to take pills just to be able to enjoy the moment. And then he continued and said, look, my guys, let's be very honest. Not my type. I don't even like her, but she makes a boatload of cash. So all I have to do is make sure that she is past her prime. She's older than me. Very soon, she won't even be able to have kids anymore, and I don't even have to worry. So as long as I keep delaying it, we won't even have to have kids. Now that was the straw that broke the camel's back, because not only had Zota deceived Rufaro and she was hearing this live from his mouth, but she realized that all the love she had felt, all the love she thought she was receiving from this man was not real. He'd been purposefully making sure that nothing would mistake them into having a kid. And he really and truly was just waiting her out. But why? For money? Is that really all she was to him? Hidden behind the door, Rufaro cried. She cried like her soul was being torn apart to shreds. And quietly, she walked off. Now, you would think that would be it. You would think that Rufaro would confront him in this moment, but no. You see, when you hurt a woman beyond repair, she turns into something dark, something angry. They say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and oh my lord, was Rufaro scorned. She started to plot and plan. After Zota's friends left, she pretended to be happy. She pretended to be affectionate. She pretended in a lot of different ways, but her smile never reached her eyes. Her joy was hollow, and her mind was perpetually busy. Rufaro was planning. From that day onward, Rufaro became numb. She smiled a little less, looked up at the sky a lot more, and behind closed doors, she started to plot, making secret calls, going to various locations, all behind Zota's back. And to be honest, Zota was none the wiser. Little did we know that what had been planned, what she was brewing in her mind, was so much worse than what she had heard Zota say. Hold up, wait, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now let's go back to the show. A few months down the line, it was Zota's birthday, and Rufaro had planned that day to a T. You see, she'd been having calls, text messages, secret meetings, and now was the time to put it all together. For Zota's birthday, Rufaro had everything planned out to the T. She first took him out for dinner, treated him to a wonderful time, paid for everything, ensured he was well fed and happy. Then she took him back home, prepared a bath for him. Zota was having the evening of his life. After his bath, she then got ready, got into something really cute, and get jiggy with it. Yeah, everything was ready. After that evening, she served him a glass of juice and was like, you know what? Wind down, relax. The minute Zota drank that juice, he started to feel a little woozy. But Rufaro was there. She said, oh, you must just be tired. Maybe your energy has been spent. You've had such a great evening. Relax. And just like that, Zota passed out. When she was sure that the drink had taken effect, Rufaro went into a hidden compartment in her wardrobe, pulled out a syringe and a bottle, and injected Zota without his knowledge. Now, by the time Zota woke up the next morning, he remembered most of what had happened the night before, up until the point he fell asleep, or so he thought. And from that morning again, Rufaro continued her charade of acting normal, behaving normal. Everything was going well. But little by little, day by day, Zota was feeling sick. And after a couple of weeks, he started to get really sick. He started going in and out of hospitals, hospital visits, seeing doctors, and they really couldn't pinpoint what was wrong with him. By the end of that year, Zota was struggling. He was falling sick. He had changed doctors. Everything would work and then stop working. And eventually, he finally got a doctor that said, oh, they have figured out what is wrong with him. And they called Zota to come in. Now, of course, Zota went with his beloved wife, Rufaro, and the doctor sat him down and said, look, sir, we have to tell you something very important. Unfortunately, after all the back and forth, we did a test and we realized that you're HIV positive. Now, Zota was confused and a little shocked. The doctor said, but that's not all. Unfortunately, because you remain untreated for so long and had such a high viral dose in your system, we also had to diagnose you with an active case of AIDS. You are sick. Now, the doctor said, in light of this, you are indeed married. So unfortunately, Rufaro, we have to test you as well. And Rufaro said, I mean, sure, that's fine, but how could this be? Like, we've been married for several years. None of us have been sick. Could one of us be undiagnosed and have just, been living life? The doctor said, I don't want to make any claims, but let's have you tested first and foremost. So again, Rufaro goes, they give her a test, and they come back. And they tell her that, oh, it would seem as though you, my darling Rufaro, are HIV negative. Rufaro, shocked, looked over at Zota and said, how could you? In that moment, Zota started to cry. He started to beg. He started to plead with her. I'm so sorry. I never meant to walk out on you. I've never meant to go behind your back. I'm so sorry. I don't know how this could have happened. Rufaro wanted to hear none of it. Fortunately, the doctor said, look, Mr. Zota, please note that considering how long you've had it and that your wife doesn't have it, we would like you to kindly contact every single person you've had relations with in this past time period, roughly 6 months to a year. Now, that's when things got a little tricky. Rufaro eventually left the hospital angry, sad, but a little mischievous at the back of her mind. She left the hospital and left Zota to deal with it. By the time Zota had called all the people he was supposed to call, informed his extramarital activities of his status, and informed them that they too had to get tested, he eventually had to come home to his wife. The moment he got home, Rufaro pretended like he did not exist. There was nothing going on between the two of them. For the next few weeks to months, they lived like roommates. No contact, no conversation, just passing each other in the hall. Until one day, Rufaro got a strange call from one of her best friends. Let's call her Barbara. And Barbara reached out to her and she was sobbing. Rufaro said, oh, Barbara, what's going on? Barbara said, oh my God, Rufaro, you would never believe what has happened to me. I was seeing this guy on the side and I was so stressed out. He called me and said that he'd been to the hospital, he'd been sick, and I'd been seeing him for over 6 months to a year. He called me, said he's been to the hospital. They've told him he's HIV positive. Rufaro, I had to get tested. You won't believe. I too am HIV positive. As Barbara began to cry and sob, Rufaro started to do math, started to make calculations for her mind inside. Rufaro said, you know what? Things are starting to make clear, because she realized that not only was her husband having extramarital affairs, her friend, one of her best friends, had been part. And you know what? At this point, Rufaro felt no sympathy, no sorrow, no shame in her actions. And just like that, Rufaro knew that her best friend had been warming her husband's bed, among other people. Now, Zota's HIV status was not exactly surprising to Rufaro, because on the night of Zota's birthday, that mystery injection that he received as he was completely passed out was none other than his current predicament, the carrier, the HIV. Now you see, a few short years later, Zota succumbed to his AIDS diagnosis. Rufaro buried him, kept the story close to her heart, and went about her business. Now, unfortunately, a few years after that, she started to have a little bit of remorse, a little bit of apprehension. She decided to get right with God and asked for forgiveness. Now, tell me, guys, if you were God, would you forgive Rufaro? Now that's an entangled web. That's all I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media channels at EntangledWebStories. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I'll catch you every single Saturday. Bye!